Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester, and thank you for joining us for episode 164. On tonight's show, we'll give you our player and match analysis of Wolves' thrilling 1-1 draw against Sunderland. We'll take, I can't even tell the truth, take some of your questions. We'll ask about the season ticket holders no show. Plenty of other bits and bobs as well we're going to include in this week's episode, and also preview next weekend's game against Brighton and Hove Albion. Don't think it's going to be a particularly positive evening, Lockie, but we do need to start with a positive. So, some positive news from Wolverhampton Wanderers. So, today, Wolves women are celebrating being promoted to the Barclays Women's Super League 2. The team beat Plymouth Argyle women at the Pirelli Stadium, the home of League One Burton Albion, to reach the second tier of women's football, meaning now the Wolves women's team are now a professional side. Lockie, and a positive for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Who'd have thought it?
Absolutely delighted for them, especially after last year as well, when they were let down badly by the club. Although it didn't affect them in terms of being promoted or not last season, the fact that they were kind of left to it, it didn't feel right to me. So to see them celebrating the way they are, and they've been really consistent. That's been a really good football team this year, and over the last few years, actually, they've been really good. So to see them play the way they do and to put a bit of pride back in the shirt that perhaps we've lost this season, I couldn't be more pleased. And hopefully more people will go down and watch them play now, because they do play some really good football, and it's well worth a watch. It's not particularly pricey to go and watch them play as well, so it's an opportunity to take the family, and you'll see a team of grafters. So yeah, well done to everyone involved. It's a massive achievement.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting format because there's one automatic and then there's one playoffs. And I think there was a couple of points in it all season. I think Wolves women lost one game. I think Burnley were the superior team. It's proper ruthless. One then playoff final going up. I mean, I watched the game today. If I can remember the lady's name in goal, the Wolves goalkeeper got man of the match. I think Charlotte Greenwood got the goal. But the lady in goal for Wolves women was absolutely fantastic. Alex Brooks, she was brilliant, and no surprise she got man of the match. But yeah, do you know what? It doesn't matter. Wolves won 1-0 and they got promoted. So yeah, congratulations to Dan McNamara, everyone that was at the game, all the Wolves women, well done. And congratulations on bringing a positive vibe to Wolverhampton Wanderers. But that's where the positivity ends, Nocky. Your take.
Should we just do the bongos now and then call it a day?
That's it. We may as well do. So your take on Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, Sunderland 1.
I think if you just purely looked at the stats, you'd think that Wolves were actually really good in this game and that they were unlucky not to win it. And that's why I don't put too much stock in stats, because they'll tell you a part of the story, but they won't paint the whole picture for you. I was okay with the lineup. I was happy with having someone close to Armstrong in a rocker there, just to give us a little bit more balance up front, someone to hold the ball up. But right from the off, we just didn't look right, and we gave an awful goal away. And I know that ours was pretty much a carbon copy, but it was such a disappointing goal to give away. And the red card, which a lot of people have said isn't a red card, I don't really understand why, because it's clear as day that he's pulled his hair. That's a violent conduct. That's a red card, so I don't really understand what the complaints were about. But after that, I thought Sunderland got better. I didn't think we reacted very well to it. They looked dangerous. They moved the ball so much quicker than we did, and they had that pace down the wings. The lad Robbie up front was a real problem. They just had good players who affected the game really well. Although they didn't look particularly threatening, they had a little bit of danger about them whenever they came into our half. So I wasn't very comfortable. I assumed at half-time he'd probably take maybe Mosquera off, put Bellegarde on, try and get someone maybe linking the midfield into attack a little bit better and just give us a little bit more grip in midfield. I didn't really understand the change, and it seemed to be that we were playing Mosquera at right back, and he had an absolute howler in the second half. He was awful. And we just never got anything going. I don't want to say that we played with a handbrake on, but it very much felt that way. I don't know whether it's a case of we weren't able to commit, or we weren't able to really let loose and get at them, but we just seem to be playing within ourselves again. And when you look at the games we played against Villa and Arsenal in the second half, when we really got at them and seemed to put our foot down a little bit, that just wasn't there. It was almost like we were a bit nervous about conceding a second. So we sat quite deep and tried to break where we could, but there was no quality on the team. And yes, it's a point. We've stopped the rot, but I couldn't help but be disappointed by the performance in general, because I don't think we really tried to win the game. It felt like from quite an early stage we were relatively happy. But then if you see the stats, it'll tell you that Wolves had a right good go at them. So, it's all about opinions, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't express my disappointment strong enough that would allow this podcast to continue if I wanted to say the things that I really thought. There's nothing to lose again. Now, granted, Tolu started and that needed to happen. It appears they've put whatever differences they had aside. It's someone that's been missing for me, that kind of link up in the team to try and win. But, I mean, he did not have a good game at all. But granted, he should have started. For me, Nocky, what I really, really, really didn't understand, you're a goal down and then all of a sudden you've got a man advantage. Within a minute of that, you make a tactical switch. You take one of your centre-backs off, don't really mind who. If you want to leave the fastest guys on, you leave Totti and Mosquera, so you can go on the halfway line, so you're less susceptible to balls over the top. Either way, one of the three. You then put Bellegarde probably in midfield to make a 3, and then you have a 3 up front, and you press, and you squeeze, and you might be susceptible to a long ball, but they're not going to keep playing a long ball, and eventually you're going to get chances. Wolves just watched the game carry on. There wasn't any difference. For that remaining 20, 25 minutes of the first half, there was no difference at all to when they had 10 men or when they had 11 men. There wasn't any difference. And you raise a really good point there. Although there wasn't particularly peppering us, when they were in possession of the football in that middle third, the way they moved that football into feet, little one touching out wide, was like football we'd not seen. I'm not saying Sunderland were brilliant, okay, but those little spells of play, when there was a ball into feet, strong guy holding it up, little touch, and then getting into a wide area to deliver, it was happening again and again, and we couldn't live with it with 10 men or 11 men they had.
Yeah, it's really difficult to put your finger on it, isn't it? Because we know we're bottom of the league for a reason. We're not good enough. But I expect some of these players to go for some quite decent money at the end of the season, and we know there is some talent in that squad, but they seem so worried to really have a right good go. And I mean, we're bottom of the league, we're relegated. It doesn't make a great deal of difference what happens on Saturday. So why not have a little bit of a go at it? And if we do get beat, we're going to be annoyed, but we're going to be annoyed if we draw it as well. And you could see the reaction at the end of the game. The fans weren't happy. So if you go out there and you do maybe push it 2 or 3 up front, and you got someone from midfield, like I said, with Bellegarde linking it together, you maybe push your fullbacks up a little bit higher and just try and put them under some pressure. And if you do get beat, at least you can look at it and think, all right, I can see what we were trying to do. It just felt we were so determined just not to give that second goal away. And let's not forget, this is a team that got pumped 5-0 at home last week. I mean, they're vulnerable defensively. You can hurt them, you can get at them. And when we did put them under some pressure, they were creaking, but we were just so reticent to do it. And I just don't understand why. I don't know whether the damage they've taken this season has caused them to be scared to get forward, or they're worried about conceding goals on the breaks. I just don't know. But I just felt like there was an opportunity today to go and win yourself a football match. And we could have gone above Burnley if we'd have scored a couple of goals as well, which is worth £3 million at the end of the season if we can do that. So, yeah, I can't put my finger on it why we are playing so much in our shell. I don't understand why Rob Edwards would want the team to do that, because from his position now, if he's going to be the manager next season, you need momentum. You've got 3 games left. We go into those 3 games, we don't win any of them, and then you've got them rebuilding the summer. Even though it's going to be new players, the whole feel of the club's going to be flat. So you're up against it before you even start. So just have a bit of a go. Try and get at them. Try and put some pressure on them. And if we do get beat, we get beat, but at least we get beat the right way. It just felt so... we were so much in our shell and just didn't want to advance. And I really don't understand why.
Yeah, it was a miserable game of football. There's no excuses. That if ever Rob Edwards had written a script before the game to show the fans he had a bit more tactical nous than some suspect him of having, there was an opportunity to win people over. It was to go a goal down, but then get a tactical advantage and take the game to the opponent and have a real go. I mean, people say they could have been assessing for that 20 minutes, the remaining 20 minutes of the first half. But just to watch and do nothing, it's just a wasted half. Sunderland must have been thinking, well, this is just as easy, because there wasn't any difference. Granted, it was a little bit different in the second half, but to waste 20 minutes a game, I was stunned, Knocker. I was absolutely stunned. Like, make the change straight away. I don't care about people's feelings. It's your job. If you have to sacrifice a centre back, take them off. Whoever it is, make a decision. But they didn't, and they did it at half time. And even then, I thought that change was strange at half time, because it was like, I'm not sure how quickly it moved around, but Mascara looked like he went to right back, and Rodrigo came on. But even then, at times, it didn't quite look right. Why not leave an attacking fullback on that can cross the football instead of a centre half who's okay at right back? Never really played in England, played in Spain, I think, at right back. So we've got a young lad that's in the team because he can cross a football, because he has more talent than Chachwa and more talent than any other. It's not a high bar, granted, but you can leave a right back on, an attacking right back in a game that you're chasing. Granted, he wasn't great, but he can cross a football. So for me, you're moving a centre back to right back, and that's weakening that position, even though you're changing the formation. I don't really understand what the thinking was. Like, Rob Edwards has probably forgotten about football more than I'll ever know. But from a basic tactical look, Nocky, I just couldn't understand. It didn't make any sense. And I didn't. We talked about this now, and I talked about it to various people. If we'd have gone at them, lost 4-3 or 5-3 and gone for it, and we come home and you went home with your lad and your dad in the car, and I went back with my mum and was like, day to go, we're not very good, but we've seen a game of football. They are guilty of not giving their all tactically, mentally and physically. There was not enough application, and you've got to point the finger at Rob, you've got to point the finger at the players, because that is unacceptable. And over an hour against 10 men and you're not having a go from the off, not good enough.
Well, you look at Pedro Lima, and we're obviously playing him because we think there's a potential he could be starting for us next season. He hasn't had a great run of it so far, but you're putting him in a great position if you leave him on, because they're not going to be committing the way they were in the first half. They're going to be quite happy sitting back. You're going to give him more space to run into and try and cross the ball, and that's obviously one of his strengths. So for me, the easy decision was to take Mosquera off, because he was doing my head in with some of the antics as well. I thought his behaviour was appalling. It's funny if you win him, but when you're throwing yourself to the floor and behaving like he did, it's not acceptable in the situation we were in. But the whole game reminded me of the Palace game away, where I thought we were the much better side. We were in control of the match. We looked like we could go on and win the game. Then we had Krejci sent off. Palace adjusted, made some changes, got the shape to put us under more pressure. Couldn't cope with it. We lost the game. We don't do that. We had a man sent off against Everton for the hair pull on a Rockadair. We didn't make the most of that advantage either. We don't have the ability to punish teams when we've got that advantage. And as I say, it felt so negative. I would have loved to have seen us take Mosquera off, keep Lima where he was. I would have put potentially Bellegarde in. Well, I definitely would have put Bellegarde in, but then you could have put Rodders on as well and even push him a little bit further forward. There's things you could have done to make us more attack-minded, but I didn't get that half-time substitution. I don't think it made us any better. It was just a really strange afternoon again. And it was just, again, it was disappointing and it was boring. And I was talking to my dad and my son on the way home, and I've not seen a really good team this season. I haven't seen a team Wolves have played where I thought, that's a quality outfit. I mean, City came down and pumped us 4-0. They're probably the best side I've seen. Everybody else has been bang average. I think this is probably the worst Premier League we've played in since we've returned to the division. I think the standard's awful, but we just don't have anywhere near the quality we need to be competitive. And that's a stark reality of where we are at the moment. And that's what we're taking into next season as well. So there's so much work to do with this club from the top to the bottom as well. I don't know if you saw it. There's a video circulating with someone having a chat with Nathan Shea on the way out the ground. Some of the things that were said in that, there was red flag swinging as far as I'm concerned, because there was some really worrying content on that interview. I don't know if you saw it or not.
Yeah, I saw it. I've got mixed feelings, but the reason why people ask questions like that chap did with the video is because they're frustrated and they're worried. And would I like a camera put in my face, asked on the spot? No. Would I expect to see an executive chairman of a football club to answer the question? Well, should be what would maybe Laurie have done, or what would maybe have Jez done? I don't know. I've mixed feelings, but equally, People are allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to ask. You're allowed to film. No one's done anything wrong. I know it's something that's very much split in opinion. I wouldn't criticise the chap for doing it. He's entitled to do it. He cares about the football club. He wants to find out more. Would it be my approach? No, but that's not my business. That's not. It's not for me to give an opinion. If someone wants to do it, people care about this football club, Nocky, and I don't really think some of the people at the club genuinely get what it means to be a football fan, to love your football club, when people are forced to go and ask questions for themselves because they're really, really worried. Now, again, it's not my approach or my style, but people were asking questions because they're really worried. I don't know. What was your take on it?
It's hard, isn't it? Because it was a one-way conversation. You didn't get back what you would, not saying what you would have liked, because I don't think in that situation Nathan was obliged to reply to it. Other chairmen and other people, as you mentioned, Laurie, I think Laurie absolutely would have done. I think it kind of sums up where the fan base is at the moment. We're hearing that Jeff's knocking around again, and it may be for completely innocent reasons, but when you've been identified as one of the main architects of our downfall, if you're floating around the training ground and floating around the club, that's a little bit of a problem. And I know when last time Newey was on, we spoke about this, and at the time it didn't bother me. It feels like he's around more and more, and that is starting to bother me. But I just think collectively the club's on such a downer. I mean, we spoke before the game, didn't we? And we didn't want to go. You said to me you didn't want to go. I didn't want to go. You go out of blind loyalty, love for your football club. But it's a chore going to this club at the minute.
And that's a real shame. And we've been going as mates for the best part of 30 years. I mean, when we went to Leeds and you were a little then, and the last time in my life I was taller than you, and you're about 7. But you go and like you've got your Saturday afternoon with your dad and your lad. I'm taking my mum. She's got a season ticket. We're going out of routine and going because it's a social thing. If we were going for the football, we'd have stopped going ages ago. But
yeah,
you make a really interesting point about Jeff Shear, and I think that probably needs covering later on. I'm sure there'll be some interesting points, and I'm sure there'll be lots of comments. But let's finish up on the game, and we'll go back to the She stuff in a little bit. This is, I forgot where we are now. What episode are we on, Knocker? It's like my head's completely gone. We are on episode 164 of the Wolves Report. Mark Knock and myself, Ryan Lester. As always, as you can tell, this is always going out live. Please like, subscribe, follow. If you're enjoying the video, give us a retweet, give us a follow. It is very much appreciated. Always live. We want to get your questions, create debate, find out a little bit more, learn a bit, create some points, create some talking points. It's always great to have you join us. Let's go to the team, Knocky. This will be exciting. Now, in terms of the lineup, I don't think we can complain too much in terms of the addition of Tolu. We've wanted that. We can't really moan about Pedro Lima. We've moaned about Chachua for a long time. We wanted that. That's fine. However, I'm still going to moan. Why would you play the player that's probably the most consistently giving it the most out of position? And what I mean by that is Adam Armstrong. I felt like, as it says on the tactics there, I felt like he kept drifting out to the left. For me, this is more of a fox in the box. This is a guy that's pressing high up. You got Tolo in the team, who wasn't great, and then you're pushing Armstrong out of position. Why not have Tolo and Armstrong in a pair with Mane just tucked in behind? Now, I don't know if that was the shape they were trying to do. It certainly didn't look like that to me, Knocker. It felt to me that Armstrong was being forced left, and you're just not going to get the best of him in that position.
No, I thought Mane in particular was pushed out far too wide. He does his best work for me if he's in that space between Gomez and Andre and Armstrong and Tolu. If you play him in that number 10 position, he can pick up space. He hasn't got a lot of pace, but what he can do is get himself out of tight spots. He's got good movement. He's got quick feet. So I like playing him there. He was so wide. He was practically a winger, and Armstrong was really wide on the other side. I want to see Armstrong right next to Tolu so that when them balls are coming in, you've got someone to hold it in and play it off. And Armstrong's a really intelligent lad, and we're not giving him any opportunities. He had one genuine chance, and that was a flicked header that the keeper, he should save, but he just gets himself into that position. We're not playing to his strengths at all, and I want him closer to Tolu. I want them playing off each other and starting to build something, and I don't want Mane as wide as he was, because that was such a waste of a talented player sticking him out wide, because he just hasn't got the pace to play there. So I didn't understand it. I mean, even the rest of the shape, you look at Lima, I thought Lima was too deep as well. I don't think he got himself into position to cross the ball. I don't think he had a great game. But same with Hugo. Hugo didn't have his usual kind of burst of adrenaline and pace down that side trying to get forward. He seemed quite deep as well. I don't know if it was the system that Sunderland were playing that affected us, but there just didn't feel like any attacking intent, which seems daft when you look at the stats and it looks like we've had a right good go at them. But the stats
look pretty level, but we've had a man advantage for over an hour.
Yeah, exactly that.
One thing that, again, it's another red flag for me. Playing this system that he's been playing in recent weeks, is this showing out the coach to be a bit too rigid? Because for me, I know you might want width or whatever, but you mentioned then Armstrong is going to get his best football when he's playing to someone who he can feed off. That man would have been Tolo. He didn't really get next to him because he was wide. Mane's best position, as you said then, will be playing just in front of Gomez and Andre, picking up the ball, turning and going. Didn't really do that. We're just two guys on a podcast talking about it. I just don't understand. Why have we got to be so rigid in that setup? Now, whether Rob's here or next year, that'll be a question that comes up again in the podcast. I don't know. But I just don't understand why in that position then you're putting people in the team, you're making the changes, but you're playing people out of position. And then, of course, they're not playing well because what are you asking them to do? I don't know. I just felt we're a bit rigid and it would have been a simple tweak. Tolu next to Armstrong, feeding off, running off the back of his shoulder, Mane picking the ball up, trying to link with Tolo. For me, that makes simple sense. I didn't get it.
But there's nothing to lose. That's my biggest frustration now. We've played this three at the back ever since Edwards has been in. I know he's flirted every now and then with a four, but he likes to play a three. We're down. We're relegated. Let's start looking at the shape for next season. I think that group of players in a 4-2-3-1 could work. Like, if you had Mane, Armstrong, and then you perhaps played Bellegarde in a three behind Tolu, you could have Armstrong and Mane kind of rotating amongst them so they could get into the number 10 position and support Tolu. Bellegarde links you up to the midfield. I just think there's opportunities to do things a little bit differently. I don't like Mosquera in the team at the moment, so you could play Santi and Totti as two centre-halves, which I think they can play. Hugo and Lima become your full-backs then, which I think could suit Lima. He looks more like a full-back than a wing-back to me. Andre Gomez obviously are going to hold, and then you play the three behind Tolo. I just think that gives you a little bit more up front then, because you're giving Mane and Armstrong an opportunity to really interchange and support Tolo, and Bellegarde links that midfield so well. And I think Bellegarde's best position is playing in the midfield in a three. I think he can really affect a game there. So if you give him a little bit of a free roll to run, I think Wolves could be quite expansive going forward. But to stick to a system that, it hasn't worked, has it? We've won, 3 games all season? Playing with the three at the back, it hasn't worked for us. Whether that's the quality of players or not isn't really relevant. We know it doesn't work, so just try something different. Give the fans something to look at. I think, all right, we tried a 4-2-3-1, didn't really like it, and then maybe in the second half, if you want to be a little bit more expansive, you could have gone to a 4-3-3 and tried to stretch it a little bit and bring Rodgers on and play him in that position. I just think there's other opportunities to try and do something a little bit differently, and the only reason he kind of went to a 4 is because I don't think he knew what to do. I think it was almost a panic decision. And then you stick Mosquera as a fullback. I think that doesn't work for me at all. It just seemed like a really strange decision. When you've got Chichua, who I don't like, but he can play there. You've got Lima, who you're trying to see if he's good enough to play there. You've even got Rodrigo, who can play there. There was options to do it. But just to lump Mosquera there, for me, that made no sense at all. So just be a little bit braver and try something different. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But if we win that game 10-0, we're still going to get relegated, so it makes no difference. You might as well have a bit of a go.
Yeah, we've been saying this. We said it after West Ham. We said it after Leeds. We said it last week against Spurs when Spurs hadn't won this year, and we managed to let them beat us. And then we could barely put up a fight against 10 men. I'm just absolutely staggered by some of the tactical decisions, and I am really concerned. As I said, he's annoying people, he's antagonising people, but at the end of the game, Nocky, he didn't come out. Now, I think this is one of the questions that I might have jumped on, but he decided not to go around. Now, I can see the logic, but someone said to me on one of the messages, if he's prepared to come and beat his chest after Wolves beat Villa, then you got to go and take your medicine after you can't beat 10 men. Is that a fair comment?
It is It is. I mean, it's really difficult because I can see both sides of it. The fans are chanting, "You don't know what you're doing" after he made a substitution, so you already know they're not particularly happy. And then there's boos at full time. Do you make it worse if you start doing it? I mean, what I would have liked to have maybe seen was him shake the hand of the opposition bench, maybe make your way into the centre circle, shake the hands of a few players, and then disappear off back down the tunnel, not go to the North Bank or South Bank. Just do kind of the bare minimum and just make it lip service. When you just storm off down the tunnel, that's probably made things a bit worse, because he definitely would have got the bird if he'd have headed to the South Bank and the North Bank. But then some of the chants that were booming out after that, worse than what he probably would have got if he'd have just done a little bit of walking around the centre circle for 5 minutes. Yeah, he's in a really sticky spot now. I've not seen a group of supporters turn on a manager as quickly as we've seen it with Rob Edwards, especially with the mitigation around what's happened. But I think it's a reality of the frustrations of the season, the disappointment we've had of what we've wasted really over the last 8 years. Some of his comments, for me, it feels like the relationship's totally beyond repair now, and they're going to have to make a very big decision. They're going to have to make it very quickly, because we can't be sacking him in July when we decide that actually it's probably not the right thing to do. So there needs to be a decision made very quickly about Rob.
Yeah, I've said it for probably a month now. If it's Rob, the club need to come at the end of the season and saying Rob is our guy for next season. We are backing him. We want everyone to be together. Basically, a message trying to unify people, because it's less likely to get.
Even that, though, is that not just the dreaded vote of confidence if they come out and shout something like that? I mean, I'm not even sure that would make it any better. That almost makes you feel like
we can't.
The club know he's not good enough, but they're going to carry on.
We can't be playing Preston on the first game of the season, all right? And it's 1-0 to Preston after 20 minutes, and we're chanting, we want Edwards out. We can't. We cannot be in that position. We can't. We absolutely can't. And I don't know. Of course, he's not fully to blame. He's inherited an absolutely stinker of a squad, but I think he's helped himself. We've seen a fully motivated Wolverhampton Wanderers with some fight, what they can do against Aston Villa. Granted, it's a game that we always seem to get something from. We saw some fight against Arsenal, 2-0 down. Where's that been? The pressure's been off the last 3 or 4 games. Where was that? Can the manager now not motivate the players? Or we lost our bravery? Because he has shown in glimpses, got a result at Old Trafford, that there is something with these players. I do think it's a relegation squad. Again, I'm repeating myself for the whole of the season. The team in 17th should not have more than double the points that Wolverhampton Wanderers have got. They've got 3 times the amount of wins. They've got more than double the points. This squad of players aren't very good, but they are not as bad that they are double the amount of points away, more than the place of safety. It's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the promoted teams. I think we've played 5 games against promoted teams, and we've lost 4 of them and drew 1. The squad is atrocious, but then at the same time, you look at the end of the season, we're going to get money for João Gomez. We're going to get money for Andre. We're going to get good money for Krejci. There's players there that are going to go for a lot more money than anyone in that Burnley squad is going to go for. So how are we so far adrift of, not so much Burnley, because we're only a couple of points away from them, but for a club to have been 8 years in this division and to be sat on 3 wins for the season, it is just beyond belief, really. And I think the worrying thing is we could see this coming, couldn't we? I said last season I wasn't worried about staying up last season, going down last season. I was more worried about staying up, because you can see the incremental damage that's happening to the football club, and the difference in squad every single year that we're going into, every single window we're getting it wrong. And we go back to, and you're going to do it because it was the best era, but you look at that first squad of players we had in the Premier League, that first one when we came back, and you've got Martinho and Neves in midfield, you've got Adama Traore, Jota, you've got Jimenez up front, you've got Cody, Bolly, Saiss at the back, Johnny and Prime Doherty playing. We were such a good side then, but you compare that squad to what we're finishing with and what we're leaving the division with, and it's absolutely atrocious. That squad of players that we came up with beat us 3-0 comfortably.
To make the playoffs, Knocker.
Yeah, I agree with that. There is some individually decent players, but collectively it doesn't work. I mean, Tolu, I think he was something like our fourth most expensive signing, and he scored, 3 goals? And he missed an absolute sitter last minute. And I know he hasn't been consistent in the team, and he hasn't had a huge run out, but that was our Strand Larsen replacement. You look at Jean Arias, who was our Cunha replacement. Fer Lopez, who was going to be the next big thing. He was people talking about him being similar to Jota, the way he played. Every one of them has flopped. And to have a window that bad, and the worrying thing for me is we're going into probably the most important window we've had since we've returned back to the Premier League. But we're going into that with some of the same people that affected last year's catastrophe. Big problems for Wolves if they don't get it right. And I think some of the conversations around we only want one season in the Championship. That's some of the most arrogant comments I've heard from the Wolves.
It might be true if it goes really wrong.
Well, yeah. To be fair, it could be, but that is such an arrogant comment to make because that division is horrible. It's relentless. It's Saturday, Tuesday. You got big bruisers knocking you around, and we're going to have to probably make the best part of 10 signings just to make us competitive. And you think you're going to do that and challenge? And I've said it a few times on this podcast. I think you're absolutely dreaming if you think we can make that amount of changes because we're not going to do it early either. You know the way Wolves operate. We'll go into pre-season with at least one of Gomez and Andre. And we'll be trying to ship them out. They may even start the first game for us of the season. We'll be doing our business late. And that's just another issue that we're going to have to deal with. So I'm really concerned.
That puts you 4 or 5 games behind if you do that again. And it just
And what happened this year? We were 4 or 5 games behind this season, and that was it. Bang, it was too late to get anything back from it. You look at Southampton. Southampton went down. It took them a long time to get themselves going, and they've had a late rush. The teams who generally tend to bounce back are the teams who weren't very good in the first place. So you look at a Burnley, they go down. They don't lose many players because it's a pretty poor squad. They're just about too good for the Championship and not good enough for the Premier League. So they keep the same sort of squad of players with 2 or 3. Ipswich did it. They came down. They lost Liam Delap. They lost Damari Hutchinson. They lost a couple of players, but they had the nucleus of the squad. So they've been able to bounce back at the first time of asking. How many of them, realistically, if you look at that graphic on there, I would say Bentley maybe stays, Totti, Lima, Armstrong. They're the ones I think will stay. The rest of them, I can see every single one of them going. How do you do a rebuild the size that we need and be competitive?
It's a really good point, and it's going to be really hard. And you mentioned a couple of months ago that you weren't emotionally invested in any of these players. And you mentioned some names then, Jota, God bless him, Neves, Joe Martinho, these players that you loved because it was magical times. I'm at the point now, generally, I don't care if all of them go and it's a completely new team. But I would say on top of that, although as difficult as that may be, it needs a drastic reset because there is such now a loser mentality within this squad. All right. We showed it for a couple of games. We won 3 games. And again, I kind of contradicted myself by saying it's not good enough for the Championship. Maybe they've dropped my standards so low now, but are these players that bad? I mean, you look at them, there's multiple players there that have played international football, under 21s or 4. It's ridiculous. So for me, Nocky, I think there needs to be a huge shake-up and all offers are on the table. You know what? Everyone's for sale. Everyone's got a price. If it's a completely looking different team to get, and do you know what? I think the fan base might need that. The club might need that. We need a reset. We need some excitement. We need a fresh look and a fresh start. And I think maybe that doesn't involve many of these players, and it probably doesn't involve the manager now as well.
If I was to say to you, out the squad we've got now, how many do you think will go, and how many signings do you think we'll make? Where would you be?
I think we see double figures leave comfortably. I think the loans come back and play a part, and I think we probably sign 7 or 8.
Which loans do you think? Because I don't think Kalajic. I'd love to see Kalajic come back, but I don't see.
I think there's a chance Sasha plays
in the Championship.
If he's lasted a season playing football and he's back, I like Sasha. I think he could do a job. I'm not sure he's going to be able to play every week. I'd like him to come back. I think Tommy Doyle is a shoe-in to play, particularly if Rob's the manager, which I'm not sure he will be. I think Tommy Doyle's a shoe-in. They'll have a look at Boubacar, who knows. I think they'll have a look. But as for those players there, I'm more concerned about who I can't sell than whom we're going to keep. No disrespect to Toti Gomez. If he's the captain the last few games, just don't understand it. You know what? He's really good without the ball at tracking back and putting a last foot in. But we need guys that can play football as well. And I don't see him as a leader, and I'm not throwing him under the bus, but I'm not building my championship team around Toti Gomez.
But who's going to come and buy Chichua? Who's going to give us anywhere near the money we want for a Rockades? How many of these players are we going to end up loaning out with a view to a transfer at the end of it? And then suddenly you're cutting your revenue, you're cutting the amount of money you can spend on players. That's the risk for me. We've done so much poor business. I mean, we know we're probably going to get between 30 and 40 for Gomez and around about 30 for Andre, I would say. You know that Santi, you could probably look 15 to 20 million. You can put a price on some of them. Even Mateus Mane is an interesting one. I think that there'll be some offers coming in for him, but they'll probably try and tickle us with a 25 million and see what they can get. But Tolu, we spent a lot of money on him. You're not going to let him go for 10 million, are you? You're going to want somewhere near your money back. But where do you justify that when he scored 3 goals? Although I do think there's a player there, he's not going to want to play in the Championship. We're going to want to sell him because I'm going to assume he's on big money. You ain't going to get anywhere near it. So now you're loaning players out. I just think there's the damage from the last couple of transfer windows. That's not over yet. I think that's going to roll into next season, and we're going to feel that. We're going to feel that pinch because offloading players, even though they'll take a pay cut and they'll want to go, they're on really, really good money. So you're going to try and offload those players to clubs, and they're going to, if you're looking at a striker now, if you're one of the promoted teams, you're going to think, yeah, I like Tolu, but 3 goals, I ain't paying 25 million for him. I tell you what, we'll take him on loan. If we stay up, we'll buy him. It's going to be those kind of deals for me, which aren't going to suit the club.
Deals over the last few years as well, so weak.
Yeah.
This is episode 164 of the Wolves Report. Mark Knock and myself, Ryan Lester. I think that's enough about the team. On Saturday afternoon, Molineux looked like it had thousands of empty seats, and from where I sit, this was the view. Now, Nocky, this is the video I tweeted after the game, and I said, empty seats at Molineux speak louder than words. Damaged trust, broken fan relationships, and unwatchable football under this regime. Years of neglect, poor decisions, and now relegation. Some Wolves fans look like they are done with funding failure, and who can blame them? Nocky.
It's damning, isn't it? I mean, I think we're playing against 10 men, and I couldn't believe the amount of people who were disappearing after 85 minutes as well. There was just a steady stream of people because people didn't believe we could go and win the game, so they were going to beat the traffic. That was probably the lowest attendance I think I've seen this season. I don't think I've seen anything lower than that. I know the official attendance is always going to be slightly skewed. I think it said 29,000 because it counts season tickets, whether they're there or not. I'd be surprised if there was 24, max 24, maybe 25 at a push. It's worrying, but I suppose from a fan's perspective now, it's a chore to go. We spoke about it, didn't we? And I know I've already covered this, that it's a chore to go to Molineux. So if something else comes up, there is a consideration now. Do I want to go up there? Do I want to spend the money on parking? You're going to have a pint, aren't you? You're going to go and pay fuel money, which we know is expensive now. There's a lot of reasons not to go at the moment, especially when you're turning up and you're thinking you're probably going to lose every game you play as well. So it's a worry, and it's maybe a sign of things to come, because when you get relegated, generally you're going to lose 5,000 fans, aren't you, who won't come back because you didn't in the Championship. We don't start well. If we do start well, I think you'll see full attendances at Molineux with the prices. But if we don't start well and we're not, we go 5 or 6 games into the season and we sat 12th, 14th, you're going to see worse attendances than that, I guarantee you.
Yeah, it's going to be a slog. It's a concern, but equally, who can blame people? And it's a shame when people have bought season tickets, they're not going to go. But I get it. And we talked again earlier in the show and previously about it's a slog, and we're going because it's a sociable thing to spend time with our family. We're not going for the football. You're going there now because you do love your football club, but you're certainly not going for the football. And the amount of people, whether it comes, I know a lot of people say this, but in the various Wolves-related group chats that I'm in, there are people saying, I'm not going to renew this year. I'm going to see how it goes. And again, you can't blame them. You're going to have to win the fans back. Now, granted, we've praised the season ticket prices, rightfully so, but there is so much other work to be done. On the playing side of things, the Jeff Shee stuff, which we're going to talk about in a second, that's coming up, There's so much work to be done. As you mentioned, it just shouldn't be underestimated what a mess has been left. And again, I do have some sympathy for Nathan because what he's inherited, he's got such a massive job. But as the director of football told us, Wolves should be a player next season. We should be in a good financial situation to have a good crack at the window. So as much as you say it's a massive rebuild, Nocky, every year that Wolves are back in the Championship, the harder and harder it will be. We spent most of our times, Wolves need to get it right and need to get it right in the first year. And they need to be going up in the top two because they need to make it right with the fans and make Wolves a player again. So we've seen the standard of the Premier League. Let's get back up there, but let's see. It's going to be tough.
I completely agree, and I don't want to be critical of Nathan Shea at the moment because there is nothing he could do this season that was going to affect the outcome. The things he could affect were the season ticket prices and the fan interaction in terms of trying to get people back around the table and have those communications, and I think he's done that. So to criticise him for the football aspect, I think is really harsh. For me, where it starts is when we get to the first game of the season. What does the squad look like? How many players are we still trying to offload? Did we do our business early? That's where we can start judging Nathan Shea. But at the moment, I mean, you look at those empty seats, I totally understand it. I mean, we lost to a side who hadn't won all year in Tottenham Hotspur. And a few days later, I'm forking out £675 out my bank to get a season ticket for me and my lad. Then I'm turning up to a game against a newly promoted team that I expect to lose quite comfortably. It's such an effort at the moment to be a part of this football club. And we'll do it because it's our club and we love them. But I don't judge or blame anyone if they decide that that's me done for the season now and they're going to walk away from it. I don't blame anyone for doing that. And I think the club needs to recognise that we are supporters, we are loyal, but there is a limit to what even loyal fans are willing to accept. And they're getting close to that bar at the moment.
Absolutely. This is episode 164 of the Wolves Report with Mark Knock and myself, Ryan Lester. We are 42 minutes in. Just get on some questions, Knocky. Couple of interesting points.
How long to the first Rob Edwards one?
So we'll give that some time first because you know where that's going to go. Let's have a little look. A bit of praise for your catchphrase, Knocky. It's now Knocky's header, and it was the header, sort of the thumbnail for this episode as well. So yeah, I mean, one day if we get the show and makes t-shirts, let's sell them. Let's do it. But much appreciate your kind words. Chap that sits by us in the North Bank with this week's stinker, Freddie Shaw. You have to keep one for next season, Jackson or Hwang. I mean, there's just no need for that, Freddie. It's just there's absolutely no need for that whatsoever. We're trying to find some positives, and that's an absolute stinker. Now people are going to go nuts here, Nocky. All right. But I'm going to say Jackson. I can't go back on Hwang. He hasn't kicked the ball for ages. I never want to see him again. I cannot pick Hwang.
Oh, God, I don't know. I mean, the last thing I remember Hwang doing was his outside of the foot shot that nearly took Asda out. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to keep either of them. I suppose
it's a stinker, isn't it?
I'd probably keep Jackson because if we can spend a full pre-season with him, maybe he can become your kind of Hail Mary when things are going wrong and you just stick him on and try and get him to run at people. I think he's young enough that there's potential to put some focus around him, maybe a bit of hyper focus around how he plays the game, and maybe you could teach him. You can't teach Hwang at his age, and it will be Jackson. Although if he's starting for us next season, then we've absolutely failed in the window.
I mean, Freddie, it's a stinker. Bobby Smith says this season has Santi Bueno been one of our shining diamond, perched proudly on a steaming dung heap. I think Santi's one of the few players that's coming away with his season with a bit of credit. I think you could put Joe Gomez on that list. And for a late addition, I think you could put Adam Armstrong on that list. Otherwise, I'm really struggling. I mean, Hugo Bueno's probably done okay as well. I mean, he's got a little bit quieter the last few weeks, but it's slim pickings, isn't there? There isn't really a particularly player of the season. As you mentioned, I think a while ago, Santi always seemed to be the guy that dropped out when it went wrong. But he seems to be the guy that stepped up. We know he's not particularly quick, but I think for a team that's been defensively abysmal, he's the one defender that's been okay. So yeah, Bobby, he's the diamond in the dung. Here we go, Knocky. Robbie says Is there any way back for Edwards after Saturday? No, Knocker usually tells us when the away fans turn, I think they did a little bit at Leeds, that's usually the end of the manager. But when there is unpleasantries being sang during the game, and when you get the don't know what you're doing, that's the first domino, isn't it, Knocker? When you get the don't know what you're doing, there's not very many managers that ever recover from that. Now, when the substitution happened and they were singing it, I was like, oh, yeah, I don't know what you're doing. And people are angry and people are frustrated. So yeah, but Robbie, is there any way back for Edwards? They're not going to sack Rob Edwards before the last game of the season. That doesn't really make any sense. They probably got their eye on that £3 million, and that'll be the £3 million worst team playoff at Turf Moor on the last game of the season, which will be a laugh. But I don't think there is now, Knocky. I'm going to put my neck out, and I'll be really surprised if he's the manager of Wolverhampton Wanderers next season. Yes, he was brought here to get Wolves promoted, but I think he's done more harm than good, particularly over the last month. Some of the comments, some of the things he's done tactically. Again, I want Rob to succeed. When you have someone that wants to be at the club so badly and takes a gamble from a team that might get promoted, I want their bravery and loyalty to the club rewarded. But I think Wolves now are as bad as they were when they were really, really bad under Vitor. Wolves stink at the moment, and I think Rob has to take some ownership of that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's not a fair comparison, but someone put on a percentage comparison between Dean Saunders, who I think is our worst manager in my time watching Wolves, and he's got a better win ratio than Rob Edwards. And I know it's a different league, so it's not a fair comparison, but I've tried to be balanced about Rob Edwards. I've always kind of been on the fence, but I think there is mitigation around the situation we're in. But I don't see how this is salvageable now. The fan base it was split. I think there's definitely more people want him out than want him to stay now, which is a massive problem. And as I've said a few times on this podcast, if Wolves win their first 5 games next season and then they lose number 6, the only focus will be on that number 6. I don't think Rob Edwards is ever going to find his way back into Wolves fans' hearts. And he hasn't helped himself with some of the comments. He made some daft comments around, oh, am I allowed to smile and all those kind of things. And there maybe should be a little bit of learning for him in terms of how you read the room and see what fans are going through. But I don't think we can go into next season fractured. So, no, for me, we need to make that change now. I would like to think the club are already eyeing up who's going to come in. I'd really like to see Thomas Frank, whether we could convince him to come and take us on. I think that gives me belief that Wolves can come straight back up at the first attempt because he's such an intelligent operator. But I don't know if we're ambitious enough to bring in a Thomas Frank, if I'm being honest. But I want someone like that who can kind of go back to basics. I just don't think Wolves fans are going to accept Edwards now, and it's going to be a nightmare if we go into next season and we're all fractured and half the fan base want him, half the fan base don't, and it's just going to make things really difficult in what's already going to be a difficult season. So for me, it's a golden handshake. Thank you for your efforts. Best of luck with your future. But yeah, I think we're going to let him go.
Yeah, again on Saturday, which I didn't particularly like, was alluding to the players playing in a difficult environment. You set them up to be negative with nothing to lose. You've made no changes against 10 men until half time. You kind of brought that on yourself. There was one moment in the game, Knocky, I think it was in the second half, and there was a little interplay and we broke and the stadium lifted. I don't know if you remember it. It was, we countered. There was a couple of tackles, a little bit of play, and we broke. And I think Mane took it forward and then made a poor decision at the end. But the positive football, the stadium went up. It has to be a two-way street. You've got to feed us something we can't expect it all from us. But to say it's a difficult environment, I just think it's unfair. I tell you what's difficult, when people are making 2 and 3 hour, 4 hour round trips. The season ticket money they've just renewed, and it's been absolutely desperate. And you've got 3 wins in the best part of a year. No, that's difficult. It's a difficult environment to us to watch this absolutely turgid football. So again, I just think he's over-protecting 11 to antagonise 25,000 people.
it's such an easy out when you make a comment like it's a difficult place to play. So I don't think Molineux's been a difficult place to play this season. I think the fans have been pretty good, or they've been quiet. I mean, you look at us against the Spurs game, all you could hear was the Wolves fans and the old songs coming out. There was no negativity against them. Afterwards, yeah, they got the bird, and rightly so. But during the game, I thought the fans are brilliant. And I don't think there's been too many times this season where you've heard thunderous boos, because we're so demoralised anyway. We're kind of just accepting our fate, and we've done it really since October probably. So I don't think Molineux has been a difficult place to play. Previous years when we've been relegated, I'd say Molineux's a really difficult place to play then, because it's been angry, it's been spiteful, it's been really aggressive at times. I've not seen that this season. So to make a comment like that, and we were talking about this on the way home actually, I would love to just see him come out and say, do you know what, we were crap. But this is
what you said last week about being fed a dog turd and being told it's a sausage. It's exactly what you said last week. Tell the truth. I mean, I don't think it was so bad on Saturday what you said, but you're going to get more respect from people from telling the truth. If it wasn't very good, tell us, because I need to feel like my opinion needs to be vindicated, because you telling me how we've seen the game roughly the same. But you're not doing that every week. It's an individual error. It's a fine margin. I mean, we have been poor really poor for a month since that break, and there's no admittance of that whatsoever.
Yeah, well, we're not even broke the 20-point barrier, have we? And there's 3 games left, so you can't come out and say that we're trying this and we're doing our all, we're doing everything we can, because that's just not truthful. Be truthful. Come out and say what a mess it is at the moment. Talk about how broken the players are, because those are the kind of things where people will understand. We all know that these are young men who are going through probably the most difficult time in their careers. But when you're trying to defend them and you're trying to protect them and you're trying to talk about how well we're doing and the effort that's going into it and how everyone's, no one's leaving anything out there, I just don't believe you. And that's another frustration. And that's maybe a reason people are staying away, because that all these little bits and bobs that are going on with Jeff Shee being at the training ground and Rob Edwards' comments after games, and all this stuff builds up to the point where you think, you know what, I've had enough of this for this season. We'll call it a day. We'll come again next year. Just be honest with us.
Yeah, absolutely. This is episode 164 of the Wolves Report. Mark Knock and myself, Ryan Lester. We are 52, nearly 53 minutes in. We'll do a couple of questions. We'll probably save the Jeff Shee one till last, I think. But Ted has been in the BBC draw, and his brother, both season ticket holders in the Safe Bank, have won tickets for the Fans Forum. What questions would you like to see us ask Nathan, Matt, and Rob? Ted, that is a stinker, and I wish I'd have done some prep on that, because I've got some questions for you. But what an opportunity, Ted. There are many people I know lots of people that applied and are not being successful, but what a fantastic opportunity. And I know you find lots of great questions on here, Ted, and I'm sure you'll do everyone proud when we're asking the questions. But ask whatever you want. That's what you're there for. I believe none of these questions at all are given in advance. They're all answered on the spot on the night, and that's the way it should be. So you have to credit Wolves for that, really, for taking them. And I really wouldn't want to be, I wouldn't particularly want to be Rob or Nathan in the current situation with what they're talking about Jeff Shee, and particularly the performances. So I'm sure those guys aren't looking forward to it, but it's an opportunity to take it, and I'm sure you'll ask some great questions. And do you know what? We get stinkers on air every week. Make sure you get the questions answered that you want, because that's what you're there for. Ted, thank you for being part of the Wolves Report.
I think just on that, this is going to be a really interesting one, especially for Nathan Shee. I think we'll have an idea of where Nathan Shee is in terms of his knowledge and his understanding of what's going on, because Rob Edwards will answer these questions quite well. He's quite articulate. He's got a good football knowledge. I think he'll be fine. There'll be difficult questions he doesn't like, but he'll be able to answer them. If someone hits Nathan with something football related, I think he's going to really struggle. So I think we'll have a good understanding of maybe what to expect from Nathan after we've had this forum. But fair play to him for doing it, because it's after the season we've had to put your head above the parapet. They should do it, but that doesn't mean that they all will. So fair play for standing up and doing it.
Yeah, and credit to the sort of the alliance, because this is one of the things that was talked about. We come away with a meeting, so. Yeah, and hopefully this becomes a regular thing. It's not a particularly good time, but a forum would be easy. If Wolves had just won the last 15 games, it's not going to be difficult. This is the time to ask the difficult questions, and hopefully everyone there does their homework and asks some really, really good open questions, and I'm sure they will. Ted, thank you for being part of the Wolves Report. Last but not least, we haven't forgotten. Kevin Blackman says, is there any truth in the rumours that Jeff Shee is still hanging around the club? Right, Nocky, where do we go from here? So I think we've had it confirmed that Jeff Shee has been at the training ground this week. But I want to put it back to you, Nocky, okay? Not that I have any fire in this question or not, but why shouldn't he be at the training ground this week?
I think it's optics, isn't it? I mean, we don't know the reason he was there, but the club got rid of Jeff Shee because that was a huge part of the protests. We saw the banners, the Shee out banners. We saw the chants towards him. Optic-wise, it doesn't look great when he's then back in the training ground a few weeks later. Now, it could be totally innocent. He might have friends there that he's coming to see. It may be that he's still got some involvement with some processes. It could be still part of his handover with Mason. You just don't know. But when the fans' backs are already up, this isn't going to help, is it? Is it an innocent reason? We don't know because they haven't communicated that to us. Hopefully, they can come out and clear up exactly why Jeff Shee's still hanging around the training ground. So I'd expect that to be one of the questions that's probably going to be put to Nathan and Rob. Yeah, it just doesn't look good, does it? And again, we speak about read the room. There's nothing wrong with Jeff Shee being there. He's doing nothing wrong by being there. But read the room and understand the feeling in the fan base. And maybe could you have done that meeting somewhere else would be my kind of input. But I don't know the reasons he was there.
Listen, the club got a lot of credit. Nathan got a lot of credit, or Fosun did, for removing the problem and putting the person out of post. Now, whether, again, I'll stand corrected, whether he was moved out of post, whether he was fired, I don't know. But he would know he was moved out of post. Wolves wouldn't be so foolish to say that and not do it, would they? I mean, we were told that Jeff Shee is no longer on the payroll at Wolves. I asked Nathan that question. He answered it to my face. And we were told he was nothing to do with Wolverhampton Wanderers. Surely the club wouldn't be as foolish to do something that could be potentially devastating for their new reputation they're trying to build.
No, I don't think for a second they were lying. But things do change. You know, they're in the business world. Things can change very quickly. I believe at that moment in time they were telling the truth. It's really difficult, isn't it? Because you're criticising a guy who was at the club for what, 9 years, 10 years, something like that. So there's probably still people he's got great relationships with, and he's probably got friends there. He's got business dealings there. So you're criticising him for being in a building essentially without really knowing what he's done or why he's there. I just think it doesn't look good when the fan base are already fractured. If we'd have won our last, 6 out of our last 10 games, I don't think you'd really care, would you? Because you can already see the tides turning. But when we're in the situation we're in and we've got a belief that he's a big part of that, it just doesn't look good for me. So yeah, I don't really understand it. It'd be interesting to know why he's there. If he is still a part of the club and they have been lying, then I think they can expect some serious repercussions for that. But it could be completely innocent. We'll find out at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, it doesn't look good.
I mean, there are many questions to ask. If Jeff Shee's no longer involved there, that's one thing. We know he's involved with Sudu. We put on the show the directorship he's now got at Fosun, not Fosun, at Sudu Sports or whatever name they call themselves. So if he's no longer for Wolves, I mean, the question is raised there: what's he still doing in the area? Because would your work permit run out when you're no longer working for a UK company? I don't know. So there are questions of why would be around.
They're a global conglomerate, aren't they? And they've got lots of different business inputs. They'll have lots of different business in lots of different countries. So I don't think it would be a case of, right, this is finished now, you've got to go back to China and that's the end of it. He's been a face of Fosun in Britain for the last decade. You're not just going to switch that off, I'd say. So I can understand him being in the country, and I can understand he's probably got business dealings still with Wolves. As for him not being paid by the club, he's still been paid by Fosun own Wolves. So it's a big collective mess. It could be totally innocent.
It'd be interesting to see what part of Fosun is paying him and who exactly he's working for. That would be interesting, because I know he was on a sizable salary at Wolves. That's a big salary to carry over to any part of the business anywhere. So it'd be interesting to find out that as well, to find out exactly what the picture is. But interesting comment here from 123 North Street. Ryan, would you believe an MP? Well, if Nocky was my MP, I'd believe everything he said, but otherwise, probably not. But I'll get your point, 123. I'll get your point.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't think Nathan was lying at the time. I don't think the club were lying, because there's no benefit to lying. If they come out and said, you know what, yeah, Nathan, Jeff's still got something to do at the club, I think they would have told us what that was. He may be involved in shirt sales. He might do. It could be something that's totally away from the football side of things. So I think if he was still part of it, they'd tell us what he was. This is what he does now. It's nothing to do with their day-to-day activities. X, Y, and Z. This is what we're doing. The fact that they told us he was no longer part of Wolves, I kind of believe them. I don't think they were lying at that point. If it's changed, it's changed. But yeah, it'd be interesting to find out why he's there. I wasn't really interested before. Now I'm interested, because I think there's a few red flags swinging around this one.
Well, this as well, there's all kinds of things that are going to be going at Wolves. Now, I'm pretty sure that Wolves' sponsorship deal runs out at the end of this season, and they'll be looking for a new partner. Now, whether that's been announced or be announced soon on a new kit, who knows? Who knows? Jeff might have been around for that. And then if that's the case, Nocky, and it's talking about that being on the new kit where he's the director, that could be completely innocent, or am I being too naive?
No, I think you're right. And this is my point. We can jump to conclusions because we don't like the guy and we don't like what he's done. It could be a very simple business transaction about the new kit. It could be something simple as a planning session. You just don't know. I think the fact they've held it on Wolves grounds is a problem. If they'd have held that meeting in Birmingham or in Wolverhampton, somewhere completely different, you'd be okay with it. It's just the fact that you've still got that itch that he may still have something to do with the football club. And then you've got the fears of, is Nathan a bit of a puppet for Jeff and he's just here to change the face as opposed to the activity? Because Fosun's attitudes on Wolves aren't going to change. We're not suddenly going to start throwing money at things. We're still going to run a self-sufficient model. So the message that we're going to get from Nathan is going to be very similar to what we're getting from Jeff, maybe just articulated slightly better. But the overall message and the overall input from Fosun is we don't want to be throwing loads of money at you, so nothing's really going to change. You just hope that from a business sense, we've got a bit more balance about the way we do it.
Absolutely. Kevin, saving the best till last. Thank you. And it was always going to be brought up tonight because of what's been going on social media. But yeah, it's a really good talking point, and it'll be really interesting to see how that situation develops over the next few weeks. Saturday afternoon, Nocky, Wolves head to Brighton and Hove Albion. I mean, I've got memories of getting absolutely pumped 6-0 there. I think we've won a couple of times there as well, but I'm leaning the side of a pumping. But let's talk about predictions before we do the bongos. I mean, I don't really care who plays. I want the season over and done with. I could do without another embarrassment. I don't want to be embarrassed, and I want them to have a go. Didn't really have a go the last 4 games. I don't really see that changing, because Brighton are the kind of team that if you press them, they could proper pull your pants down. So I think we proper tuck in and try and stink the place out. Nocky.
I completely agree. I've got a feeling Tolu will come out. I think he'll leave Armstrong on his own up front. Try to make the midfield a little bit thicker to give us a bit more protection in that area because they are quite strong. Yeah, I think we're just going to go there and try and stink it out. It's not a club that we ever seem to do particularly well against. I remember when they were getting relegated, going back a few years, I went to the Withdean and we managed to lose that one 4-1 because they're just a team that always seem to beat us. I think we went up that year and they got relegated. I may be wrong. But they're just a team that we don't seem to play very well against. And we have had some right pumpings against them since we've been back in the Premier League. Not too sure that's going to change this time around.
Yeah, just don't embarrass yourself. I'm not even sure I want them to throw the kitchen sink there because I don't want to be in the end of another 5 or 6-0 because it's just miserable as it is. But
yeah, but let's be honest. Unless we come out playing purely in our pants, we can't embarrass ourselves any further this season, can we? So whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, that's the clip for the weekend when it's 8-0.
3-0 Brighton. Danny Welbeck, he usually pops up against us, doesn't he?
Got to be going on the plane to the World Cup. Absolutely got to be. He's having a great season.
Yeah, probably, but I might as well keep that plane running because I don't see us being there very long.
You're full of joy today, Knocker.
Yeah, apologies.
I mean, I don't believe it for a second. Not a single bit of this, I believe. I believe in one of the numbers, but not them both. I'm going to go Brighton 0, Wolves 0. An absolute 3% possession stinkfest. Battered, post-bar offside. Absolute stinker. Nocky, thank you as always for being our ray of sunshine during these difficult times. I hope everyone has enjoyed this latest episode. It's just two of us tonight. We are planning to have some more guests coming on between now and the end of the season. If you've enjoyed us, give us a follow, give us a like. We're on the usual social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Facebook, we're on X, and we're uploading to Spotify afterwards, also on Facebook. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Up the Wolves.